Hey everybody, welcome to Marriage Goals Podcast. I am starting already. You guys, welcome to the Marriage Goals Podcast. Tonight's episode is called Embracing Change Together, Setting Goals to Check in New Seasons. And so we personally believe that marriage is a lifelong adventure. Our approach is not about giving advice to couples, but rather sharing our experiences and some principles that can guide you to your own path. Brian and I have been married since 1991. I should have had a picture. Almost 33 years. So this November, oh my God, he had a high top fade. I'm gonna have that next time. It'll be 33 years this November. We're parents of 3 adult children, 2 married, 1 praying will get married. And then we are newly grandparents. So we just became grandparents in July 6th.
July 6th.
To the beautiful Naomi.
Yes.
And so it's safe to say you're in the right place. We have a little bit of experience, I would say. Probably been through everything. Any season that a couple would go through, we most likely have been through it. So as we journey through the seasons of life and marriage, we wanted to discuss the importance of setting goals to check in with each other at the start of a new season. So just like nature evolves, like summer, winter, spring, fall, so do our relationships. And so in this episode, we're going to talk about changes. Some changes, we listed about 10. So we think that there are some stages, some journeys in marriage that you may want to check in with your spouse. And we listed 10. There's probably a lot more. Yeah. So Brian's going to start us with the first 5.
Yeah. So I just hope this adds some value. That's the concern and the intent, because these can become some pretty tough conversations at times. But anyway, we'll go right into it. So the first stage we have is early marriage, and that's when you get together, you kind of get through the honeymoon stage. Now you're living with each other, so you're making some adjustments with living together, and then so you're trying to make these arrangements and transitioning into merging your lifestyle. You got 2 individuals merging a lifestyle. So that can be, that can be pretty difficult. So that's what we look at on number 1 stage. Second stage is, now we have to make these decisions. We start talking about family, buying a home, raising kids, major purchases and finances and things like that.
Building credit together.
Got
your refrigerator, washer and dryer.
How do you feel about money? How do you spend money? Do you save money? Things like that. And then also, when you start that family, you want to make sure you guys have some things in place or think about putting things in place, because, you may not want to work. It may be a certain time you want to stay off. So when those things happen, these are just kind of like some goals you want to set, so you just won't get caught off guard. So starting a family, then you have, so you go into parenting. So you also want to make sure, hey, how are we going to raise our kids? Are we going to be on the same page? There's the toddler stage, which is childcare, and then you go through the pre-K. You got your elementary stage, then you got your tween stage, you got adolescence, and even adults. So those are some things that you want to put in place and think about. That definitely is a different dynamic in the household. You have to make some agreements and some plans on how you're gonna navigate.
Especially teenagers and teenage girls and boys, because sometimes husbands have different rules for the guys than they do with the females.
And vice versa.
And sometimes the girls will go to dad and ask for stuff or text dad about stuff they want to do and not text the mom. I'm just saying.
Yes.
So yeah, when they
That's
get
real
to,
talk. Real
it
talk.
is.
You know.
So when you have teenagers, yeah, you want to have a discussion about what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to have that conversation with your teenagers too, to let them know what it looks like so they don't try to.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so, even when you're going through that, then there perhaps could be some rebellion going on and some rules and things like that that are not followed. So then
Not
sometimes,
rebellion.
sometimes you have to make a different set of rules when that happens, because that can cause friction.
And who's going to do the punishing?
Hmm. Yeah.
If there's, well.
And then what type of punishing? Because you love your kids, but then there's
You
some
follow instructions.
So then we run up on the stage, which we're looking at empty nesting, and you've spent a lot of your relationship, raising your family, building things around your family, and you kind of, if you're not careful, because of that dynamic, you have to make sure that you, as we talk about right now, that we check in with each other and make sure we have these date nights and connect, because remember, you were together and then you brought in some new life, new family came in, and then now you have to resume, or you try to resume what you once had. And at that time, you've grown individually, your mate has grown individually, and then your relationship has grown. And depending on what things you put in place, that's the way it's going to grow.
And it's good to check in too, because sometimes, I mean, you might need counseling or you might need a different conversation. I know, our kids were involved in a lot of sports. They were involved in choir. They were involved in clubs at school. They were involved in church. And so there was a point where I was driving them. We were both driving them, taking them to school, going to activities. And I remember one day when my last daughter it was her last day of school. And I was like, yes, I'm so happy. I don't have to drive here no more. I'm tired of doing, like, in my head, like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And man, when I dropped her off, I literally started crying. It's like, what am I gonna do after this? Because you're so used to that routine. And sometimes you might grieve that. You may not think that you grieve it. And then empty nesters, you have your kids, you come home, you make dinner for them, or you're washing their clothes or whatever. And then there's one day that you're not doing that. And then you have to figure out how to talk to each other again. Because sometimes your conversations could just be about the kids.
Yeah.
Hey, did you pick this person up? Did you do this? And now it's like, oh,
Yeah,
it's just me and you again. Like, what do we talk about? Who are we? Who are you? Who is this person?
Yeah.
Haven't seen you in 30 years.
Which is why we need to check in. You just get into this daily routine, this lifestyle, the habit, and and without knowing it, you can actually settle for it. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to go over these stages, because they will come. And you can put some things in place to help at least assist or even mitigate some of it. And then that leads to, actually, when you're going through all that, then you're like you're going through the midlife thing. So now you're reevaluating some things. Yeah, you're reevaluating, asking yourself questions. I had something I jotted down on my notes too. So like you're reevaluating things, right? There's maybe some different life goals now. Maybe the things that you were doing before, you say, hey, when I get this done, I want to try this now. So you got to set yourself up and look for that. Then also, along with that, there could be some health issues that you're having to cope with as well. So, those stages, you want to try to keep yourself in good condition, your body in good condition when you're setting these goals. So, I mean, we owe it to ourselves. I mean, think about it. We got together, we raised a family, we put in some work, went through the ups and downs, and we want to still, be around so we can resume what we started. Right.
And then we started in our 20s. So we've been together 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And when you check in during the midlife time, you also want to check in with you, like when you do your physicals with your doctors, and you're checking in with check in with your spouse, because if you go to the doctor and your doctor says you have high cholesterol or you're pre-diabetic or you're this or you're that, and you don't share that with your spouse, how do you, because your issue is like, okay, well, I have issues. So, like, you both have issues. Your issue is my issue. So that's the time for everybody to change their diet. That's the time for you to take care of each other, because you see, you got the wife, you see older couples, you got the wife driving, the husband can't drive, or vice versa. You got somebody pushing somebody in the wheelchair. But if you guys set your health goals together, you set your fitness goals together, this is the time. Well, this is not the time. Now is the time, before this midlife, is to get some type of exercise plan together, some type of healthcare plan together, and plan to check in on each other, because there's things that females need to do at certain times of the year. There's things that men need to do at certain times of the year. And don't make it each other's thing. Just say, hey, babe, did you check in with your man stuff? Hey, did you check in with your female stuff? And make sure you guys are supporting each other, because if you're not, it will affect both of you. It doesn't just affect your spouse, right?
Yeah, and I think, in marriage is a very unselfish type of lifestyle, and you have to remember that you have to be a giver. You're going to automatically become a giver when you decide to get married and be in a relationship. So now it's no longer just one; it's both of us. So we have to take care of each other for each other. I want you to be in good health as best as possible. So I might have to check you sometime. Like
he does check.
You might have to
he
put
checked
down
me yesterday too.
No pastrami this week. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Moving right along, the next stage would be pre-retirement planning, which I would go ahead and say, hey, that could start off really close to the first stage. So we're looking at planning for retirement, financial planning again. That's an important thing, because, depending on how you handle your money, that could keep you away from each other, because you're always grinding all the time trying to get to a certain place.
Yeah.
So, and then just preparing for a new phase in life. You're adjusting to new roles and changes again, relationship dynamics, discussing retirement, or if you want to retire.
Yep. And then retirement looks different to some couples. I've seen some couples where one's retired and one hasn't, or both of you can retire, but you forgot about health care. And so I know a lot of people who continue to work just for the health care benefits. They don't even care about the check. It's like, oh, I can't quit because my health care is so expensive and my husband is on meds or something like that. Or and some people are retiring, they're traveling the world. Sometimes there's couples that have spent their whole life purchasing their home, fixing their home up. You got upstairs, downstairs, you have all these rooms, and now you're going, sis ain't trying to walk up these stairs right now, because, I may make a wrong turn, and, next thing you know, so now you're selling a house, you're downgrading, you want something smaller, or you're selling a whole house and getting an RV and say, I want to travel the world. So that's why it's important, to check in.
Yes, asset management. You want to protect some of those things, especially when you're younger and you have the vitality to put work in. You have to look into that. So when it comes a time and you can't do what you were doing when you were younger, now you're able to pull out of those finances. So.
And so yeah, so determining, checking in with each other to see what retirement looks like, because, like, again, we've been together since 20s, 30s, 40s. When we were together in our 20s, I didn't like flowers.
I did not get a handbook on none of this, and that's why I'm sharing it.
I told him, do not bring me no flowers. Do not pay $50, $60 for flowers when we have bills, right? Because I felt it was a waste of time. It was a waste of money.
And that goes into that love language thing too, knowing about love language.
Well, I'm talking about like changing. But see, now I need flowers every week. And there's not a waste of money. Yeah. So when you say
season change,
when you think you know somebody, yes, you do know someone. But if you guys are both growing, you're both reading books, you're both meeting new people, you're both being challenged. You're going to change. You're not going to be the same person.
No, you're not.
Then we have later life, aging. We're both in different stages of aging, that menopause or midlife crisis. And, you hear a lot of joking. I've heard a lot of jokes about hot flashes and this and that. I'm just like, oh, that's a serious situation, menopause. And so checking in with your spouse, making sure they're okay, making sure they get the resources they need, making sure you're educating yourself on menopause or midlife crisis or those type of things, or things that your husband needs for male stuff, pumpkin seeds or whatever that is, zinc, and just making sure you're providing, that both of you guys are taking care of each other and checking in with each other.
Yeah.
Legacy goals, what kind of legacy goals are you going to leave? What kind of, I'm working on my recipes, making sure I'm leaving my recipes behind for my daughters, making sure I'm writing as many books and poems,
Yeah.
anything that's in my head that I can get out before this life is over. So I leave not, yeah, you can leave life insurance money, but are you leaving legacy? Are you leaving stories? Are you
That can
leaving
go
your,
quick. Yeah. So information and knowledge and because what to do with the money, how to use the money, and also what happens is like I said, we didn't get a book or manual with this stuff right here, so that's why we kind of want to share these goals that hopefully can add some value to some people who are maybe in a relationship, getting in a relationship, haven't started a relationship. So these things are important, these stages, right?
Yeah, they're important. One thing, grandparenting. For some reason, I've never in our marriage, I don't think we ever discussed being grandparents.
We didn't discuss a whole lot of stuff.
We didn't discuss being grandparents, and now all of a sudden, July, we're grandparents, and then we have to ask ourselves, what do you want to be called? And I don't know what I want to be called. I never thought about it. Then it's like, what are your responsibilities as grandparents? What because you have your kids who have certain expectations. Hey, you're going to be the new babysitter. You're going to do this. When we do this, it's like, are we? So just checking in, saying, what does that look like, and having conversations on what a grandparent looks like.
Yeah, and you can start checking in, early in the relationship to go over some things, because just like we talk about when you get in a different stage with midlife crisis and menopause and stuff like that, sometimes we're just like go go go, and we're used to being the same way. Well, then when there's some things that are going on and you're kind of like, she kind of like tripping a little bit, or he kind of like, what's wrong with, what's wrong, and you have to set a atmosphere and a space to trust your mate to talk. And you could even talk about, hey, we need to start talking about how we can communicate with each other when we have issues that come in our relationship.
Right. Let's see. Significant changes. Adapting to moving to a new city, a new country, loss, bereavement. My husband lost his mom not too long ago.
Yeah.
And she lived with us. She lived with us like 8 years, almost 9 years. And so when do you talk about it? How do you talk about it? Are you ready to talk about it? Or just the fact that his mom moved in with us.
Yeah, I want to give you a pound for that too. I want to let you know that no, real, you rolling with me like that, because that's not easy for everyone. I would have did the same thing for her too, but man, the dynamic and the adjustments, not just for you, but even what I'm dealing with. I got women that I love dearly, and that's a dynamic that, man, it's just really difficult. And man, I just want to thank God for you adjusting, even though there were some rough times. We went through some rough times with that. But
so I want to say this too, because this is common now. It's coming up more and more. A lot of parents are coming to stay with their kids. It's almost, to me, it's almost like that stay-at-home moms who work. There was like that's a big part. There's like this thing. because I was a stay-at-home mom at once, I was a working mom, a mom with a business, and sometimes there's this battle between the two, like, oh, you should be home with your kids, and where some people, some parents don't need to be home with the kids. Some people need to, but it's also going to come up with your parents. When your parents become older or they become elderly and they can't take care of themselves, or they become sick, or they are widowed, um, you have to decide as a couple if you're going to take your parents in and how that affects your relationship. Because there was a point where, and I don't want to go too far down the hole on this, there was a point when his mom got sicker and somebody had to be here 24 hours, so we got to a point where for a couple of years we didn't even go on dates.
Right.
So we just started literally going on dates, and that was weird. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
we can actually leave the house together. We can go to church together. It was like, okay, you go to service, I'll go to service. You go to the store, I go to the store. You do this. And
Yeah.
so we had to learn how to date again. And it was kind of weird to get in the car together because somebody had to be here, either him or my daughter. So those are significant changes that I would, if you have elderly parents, if you have parents that live by themselves, you have parents in another city or state, you might get that phone call.
And this is why too,
They want to
as
come
we said
live with y'all.
about planning, talk to your parents too. See what things are in place, because you can also get assistance, but you just don't want it to just drop on you and creep up on you. And then
Mhm.
that makes an impact on maybe something else that you're trying to do in your future. And now you have to make an adjustment. Well, at least if you plan, you can put some things aside and mitigate some of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which also, just throwing this in there, when you're grown, it's like good and bad because you can make decisions for yourself, but then you also make decisions for yourself. Meaning, I can eat whatever I want. Maybe I shouldn't have started the eating situation. I can eat whatever I want, but I have to be responsible for how my health is going to turn out. But how I take care of myself is going to determine how my husband's going to take care of me later.
Mhm.
So even though you are responsible for your health and what you do and
Yeah,
how you
because we
take
got
care,
traveling to do.
yeah, how you take care of yourself, you have to take care of yourself in a way where maybe one day somebody else is going to be taking care of you, right?
Yeah.
So those are just a couple of changes. We talked about just getting married early, making major decisions, starting a family, midlife, retirement, all these things. These are good times to say, hey, we need to have a sit down. We just had some major changes. We need to sit down and talk about this and see how we want to navigate this next phase. And we wanted to do something kind of comparing it to summer, winter, to the seasons. And so we thought it would be good to add some visuals to characterize some of this and make it more relatable. So we think about spring, spring is like happy, birds chirping, flowers
Love is
blooming,
in
it's
there.
vibrant, she cute, he fine, everybody working. Um, but it's also like with the farmers, it's the perfect time to plant. And so while you guys are all happy and love and giggly, this is time to sit down, start planning, start having some of those hard conversations while everybody's still in a happy mood.
Yeah, from infatuation. Okay, now reality. So it's almost like running really like a mini corporation, like a mini business. You just in love with your business partner.
Yeah.
Um,
Summer.
so summer, that's the time we're looking at the farmer. He's monitoring the crops. You're looking to get any weeds out of the way. You're doing some inspecting. You're making sure your crops have no bugs and things like that. So basically, you're just kind of nurturing, and you could say nurturing the relationship, checking in again with each other. Hey, where you at? We're in summer, we're enjoying ourselves, but this is what we're going to be working on in the future. So
Right. So summer, you think about the sunshine, the beaches. You outside, you having fun, but you're also thinking about protection from the bugs, protection from the sun. And so you're protecting your. This is the time to get your life insurance together, your health insurance together, your car insurance. Some couples. I was a licensed insurance agent for 10 years. You know, you have husbands that come in and change the whole policy. Don't even tell the wife take a car off. Hey, we're not even driving that car. Now you driving a car with no insurance. you got to check in. You got to check in with each other. Hey, is this car insured? Is our home insured? What kind of insurance do we have? Do we have water insurance? Do we have fire and flood? These are hard, tough conversations. But it's good to check in during summertime when
Yeah,
it's fun
y'all.
and say, hey, are we protected? Um,
Yeah, it seems like a lot, but like I said, we're giving it to you because we've experienced some things where, things change and you're like, okay, we got to take care of that. We got to take care of that. We got to take care of that. And it could actually seem overwhelming, right? But
mhm.
it really seems overwhelming when you're not prepared for it.
Yeah.
So,
And one of the things that we do, we have a book with our things in it. And I know I had a friend, she also had like a little a file folder, and it had all of her kids' certificates in it, and diplomas and birth certificates, and make sure you have some place that you keep your life insurance policies, your car insurance, so that way if you do make changes and maybe you don't connect with each other, there's a space in that house that you can go to check on that, and make sure your spouse knows that, hey, when you change the life insurance, when you change the auto insurance, when you change the car, whatever, let's put this in here so you know where you're protected at. And when things
yeah.
come up, you already know how much coverage you have. You don't have to be like, oh, we didn't get covered for the flood. I didn't know that. So yeah, summer is fun, but it's also a time for protection. And then you got fall. Fall is like,
That's a celebration,
yeah,
harvest. You're enjoying this from the crops. You're picking your fruits and vegetables and just
everything you planted in the spring.
yeah. So it's a time it's a time of harvesting pretty much. So and in your like with us, we're just like grandparents now. So you look at the things that have been built that you put the work in for, and you just get to enjoy that.
Yeah, so this is your time to, maybe you're building a business, maybe you're buying investment property, maybe so this is the time to reap from everything you've been sowing and putting out there and savings. This is your, hey, maybe you're buying your car, your RV, your rental property, so things like that.
Ooh,
And then you know what's coming.
what's that?
Winter.
Winter. I like winter when it's cold, but then there's a part of winter that some things haven't gone the way you wanted them to. There's some things that you have to face that may be difficult. It might be some health issues. There might be some relationship issues. Um, dealing with your kids, getting bad news, things like that, having to readjust. And this is really when it's important to get together, connect with each other, talk out all of the situations and see where each other stand emotionally,
Hmm.
physically, spiritually.
Yes.
You're praying and things like that, so you can just get through it and know that once you get through that, then you'll get to another spring. But there's going to be some hardships.
Yeah. And then, you got layoffs, you got cancer, you got financial struggles, you got repossession, there's miscarriages, there's a lot of things that happen during winter. But how you plant in the spring, how you protect in the summer, and how you reap your harvest, that's going to determine what kind of winter you have. Your winter can either be cold or it could be Christmas.
Yeah,
So it's going to depend on how you plan and how you prepare. During COVID was hard for people. A lot of people
yes,
lost family members. A lot of people, uh, their
didn't make
marriages
it.
didn't work out during
Yeah,
COVID because they spent time with each other. How crazy is that?
yeah,
I'm home with my family. Oh my God, is this the person that I married? COVID, besides the bad part of it, I loved being with my family. I
yeah,
loved being with my husband at home. I loved having those conversations. We already knew each other. We already been through crazy stuff. So COVID was like, oh, we chilling,
yeah,
at home. I also believe that divorce can happen in the winter. If you don't set your winter up, you look at winter different than, instead of that being your Christmas, you look at it as kind of being your crisis, because you
yeah,
don't know you got this list that you created before you got married with this person. We were talking about that. This 6'5", this is the job you have, this is the car you drive, this is your education. But that list is not going to cover you through winters. That list is not going to cover you through all these seasons. And so it's good that on that list that you have at the top, it needs to be, will this person be able to
Endure.
ride or die with me through all these seasons? That's the person I need on my list. That's the person I got on my list.
I'm glad I made the list.
I'm glad I made his list.
It ain't easy, but somebody got to do it. No.
So, any final?
I would just say again, as we've been talking, the purpose of this is to reiterate that, check in with each other as much as you can. Set a time aside to check in while you're out there grinding, wanting to make things happen. Whatever that may be, check in and talk about these things, tough conversations, because that old cliche, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail, right? So
yeah. And a lot of people have marriage goals, or you have couple goals, you have power couples, you have that, but these are goals.
yeah.
These are goals that you check in with each other at these different life stages, figuring out not the person you married, but the person who's growing, the person who's developing, the person who's reaching their potential. That person is changing. That person is becoming. And so you're married to a person who's becoming, not a person who is. And that's the issue with some of the lists. You have a list of a person who is, and you have to be the person that helps that person get to where they need to be, to their potential. So we're going to wrap it up. I do have some, I'm like a teacher, I always got homework. I have some goal commitments for you, those of you who are watching the replay. One, commit to scheduling a seasonal check-in with your spouse. We talked about some of the things that could be a season for you: job change, changing your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. Check in at birthdays, check in at the beginning of the year, find out what each other's goals are. But commit to scheduling a check-in with your spouse. What topics will you cover? And how will you create a supportive space for this conversation? And then 2, how will you address the physical, emotional, and relational shifts occurring in your life in marriage? And what steps can you take to navigate this change? So people are living, their separate lives, but then you have lives together, and to check in on that person to see how you can support each other, because you're like one team.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of information out there, a lot of books. There's a lot of programs and things like that, but never assume we never assume that just because that's out there, we come on to just give you information like this is real talk. We, like, by the grace of God, we are able to actually get together and talk about this, because again, there was no manual for it. And sometimes you just go into marriage and you be like, okay, you working, I'm working, I like you, you like me. Now we love each other. Now we have kids, and it's a lot of planning should take place, and that's one of the reasons again why we do this marriage goals, and to be able to communicate with each other or set up an atmosphere to communicate. Very important.
All right, you guys. So thanks for joining us for this episode of Marriage Goals with Coach B and Sheree. We will see you guys next month, and we'll let you guys know what the topic is next month. If you have any questions, or if you have any topics that you want us to discuss, go ahead and send us an email, and I will post the link here. All right, you guys have an awesome night, and we'll see you next month on Marriage Goals.
Thanks for your time.
Yes. Let me see if there's any notes in the chat. All right, so Kennedy says, so amazing. Real talk. I feel blessed. My husband and I are in a good space of communication. Great. That's awesome. All right. Hey guys, this is awesome information. All right, you guys. Yeah. All right, you guys. Travel LLC. All right, you guys. Thank us right here.
Okay.
All right, you guys. Thank you. We will see you next month. Have an awesome night.